UK logistics and engineering firm Atlas Development is set to diversify from the oil and gas sector to cushion itself from reduced exploration activity. In a statement to stakeholders, Atlas says in light of the current state of the oil and gas market, the firm continues to implement initiatives aimed at further diversifying the company's offering and identifying new sectors of operation. Top on that list is the potash mining in Ethiopia, which Atlas believes will generate revenue. In September, the NSE listed the firm, announcing a 1 billion shilling loss on the back of a reduced contract base and restructuring costs incurred during the downsale of operations. Atlas is also eyeing acquisitions with the region and says it is in the advanced stages of discussions with potential takeover targets in Kenya, Tanzania and Ethiopia. And despite being neighbors and having the biggest economies in East Africa, Kenya and Tanzania have had a strained relationship that has sometimes played out in the open. But as Adelaide Changole now tells us, the state visit by Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete could mark the start of a new chapter for the two countries.
How are you?
It was all smiles and platitudes as Tanzania's president made his 3-day state visit to Kenya.
Our exports as Kenya to Tanzania grew by 5.5% to some Kenya shillings 43 billion. Nearly 20 billion shillings worth of goods and services from Tanzania came into Kenya.
Our two countries account for nearly 70 to 80% of the intra-East African trade. This demonstrates in empirical terms how much our two countries need each other.
But manufacturers in Kenya have had little to smile about. They accuse Tanzania of putting non-trade barriers that slow down trade.
There has been a number of issues around non-tariff barriers, especially around borders, that sometimes can be a bit frustrating.
Local car manufacturers have also taken issue with Tanzania, saying it is undermining the East African Community Customs Union by refusing to give locally assembled vehicles duty-free access to the Tanzanian market. Tanzania has argued that Kenyan manufacturers only assemble the cars and do not produce them. As such, the cars do not qualify for duty-free access and are instead subject to a 30% excise tax.
When we call it made in Kenya, East Africa, it is really a product of East Africa.
These actions have created a rift between Kenya and Tanzania. Among the most telling signs of this was the formation of a partnership between Kenya, Uganda and Rwanda, dubbed the Coalition of the Willing, that has sidelined Tanzania. And this year the two countries were involved in a trade spat after Kenya tour vans were barred from accessing Tanzania's parks. Kenya reciprocated by barring Tanzanian buses from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. As such, the visit by the Tanzanian president could be seen as a white flag to what has been a tense relationship.
We are all members of the East African community, one of whose main objective is to promote trade and investments between member states.
So far, Tanzania has agreed to work with Kenya to deal with poaching, terrorism and drug trafficking. And in order to what has been a major issue between Kenya and Tanzania, President Kikwete also made a site visit to General Motors plant in Nairobi and flagged off the first batch of locally assembled vehicles that will enter Tanzania duty-free.
I believe not too distant from now, we'll be able to meet East African demand for trucks and buses.
But will this mark the end of what has been a frosty relationship between Kenya and Tanzania and set the stage for a more harmonious future for the two countries?
I've seen how the efforts that we're making towards building that capacity, and I believe in no time we should be able to get where we really want to get.
Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.